Welcome to the Gazette Spotlight Business Series, presented by True North Companies. Today's Spotlight series is on adaptability.
Hello, my name is Michaela Ramm. I'm a reporter for the Gazette. Thanks for joining us today as part of this installment of the Gazette Spotlight series on adaptability. As part of this series, we are speaking with businesses and leaders in the corridor on what they've seen and what successes they've had in the past 12 months or so. With me here today is Marty Stoll. She is a business and real estate attorney with Shuttleworth and Ingersoll in Cedar Rapids, and she may be more better known as well for her community service around affordable housing in Cedar Rapids. Welcome, Marty.
Thank you.
Well, you've said in the past that it's your goal to help people be in homes, and that's what you want to do for the rest of your life. Why are you so interested in affordable housing? When and how did that start?
My interest in affordable housing comes from an experience that I had in my childhood. It's not very unusual. In fact, it's too common, but my parents divorced when I was little. My dad left, and so it was my mom, my brother, and I in our home. My mom had been a stay-at-home mom at the time, and so she struggled a little bit to find a full-time job. She took on multiple part-time jobs, sometimes doing 3 at a time to make ends meet. We weren't always able to make the mortgage payments, but luckily we had a small local bank that was very patient and very kind. They told us otherwise that mortgage would have been foreclosed. So I didn't realize that at the time. I was just a little kid, but later on when I realized how precarious things had been for my family, it brought home to me the importance of being able to stay in my home growing up. Being in my home allowed me to be close to the school that I loved, my teachers that I loved, my friends, and we were also close to our public library. And if we had lost our home, I might have lost those very important things that I think really shaped my life. So that brought home to me the importance of having a safe, stable home. And if I can help others have that, then that's something that I want to do. I've said that it's something that I want to do for the rest of my life, but that's not really true. What I would really love is for affordable housing not to be an issue for people in the future. Unfortunately, the way things are heading, it looks like that is something that I'll certainly be working on for a long time, if not for the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back to your point about the role the public library played for you in your lifetime as a pivotal moment in your life. You said that was one of the reasons you became a lawyer was because you had access to this public library. What did you read that influenced you? What role did that library play for you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any particular book or series that I can point to as being the huge influence in my life. I would read anything and everything that I could get my hands on. So fiction, nonfiction, and I'm still the same way today. But I remember going to the library. The children's section was in the basement. I would go down there, pick up as many books as we were allowed to check out in any given day. Then I would go upstairs to the adult part of the library, see how many books my mom had checked out. And so then I could figure out how many more books that I could check out under her name too. We probably were at the library twice a week. They did movie screenings and they did readings. And of course, that's where I learned to love reading. And I think that really opened my eyes to a lot of different ways of living. I don't come from a family of attorneys, but I think that reading and spending enough time at the library pushed me a lot and led me to be who I am today.
Absolutely. What a great example of this great community service and what it can do for people. Definitely. So how long have you been with Shuttleworth and Ingersoll?
So I've been with Shuttleworth since 2001, straight out of law school. I do business and real estate law for the most part. I also work with a lot of nonprofits in the area. Some of the nonprofits that I work with are different churches. I also work with and serve on the board of the Methwick Community Senior Housing, as well as Affordable Housing Network, Four Oaks, Jane Boyd, and really enjoy it.
Let's talk a little bit about your nonprofit work and your affordable housing work. So you have been on the board of the Affordable Housing Network since 2012, correct?
Right.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the work that you've done with that board.
So the Affordable Housing Network owns hundreds of rental units throughout Cedar Rapids and Dubuque, also managing properties for others in some other towns as well. ANI also buys, rehabs, and then sells homes, often to first-time home buyers, people that otherwise might not be able to get into a home. ANI offers different incentives and benefits and does a lot of really great work. I'm proud to be associated with them.
And it's my understanding you were also the commissioner, at least until recently, with the Affordable Housing Commission for the city of Cedar Rapids. It sounds like you have recently kind of stepped down from that role.
Yeah, I recently rolled off of the Affordable Housing Commission. I was lucky enough to serve on it for the first 2 years after it was reinstated, which was really the time that we kind of set some priorities and goals for the commission. The commission does a lot of great work in the outreach and education area. A lot of people think that they have an understanding of what constitutes affordable housing, not really realizing that it includes workforce housing. There are people in firefighters, teachers, and in those kind of salary ranges that also need affordable housing. And in addition to the outreach and education that group does, they also look at pending legislation affecting housing, and they advise city council whenever there are housing issues.
Tell us a little bit about some of the success you've seen during your time on that commission. What were some of the main things that you helped institute that were effective in this realm?
Well, the group worked together. It's a group of people from different area agencies, nonprofits, mostly in the housing world, representatives from each of the quadrants, and then certain representatives from different industries. There's realtor on the commission, a banker on the commission, and we work together. Really, if you think about it, it's a brand new commission. And so the commission had to come in and figure out what we wanted our charter to say, our first strategic plan, and figuring out what exactly we wanted the commission to do. Some of that groundwork is not as exciting as actually getting out in the community, but it's really important to set a good foundation for that commission going forward. And I'm happy that I was able to be a part of it.
Absolutely, that's wonderful. I wanted to step back and talk to you a little bit about the pandemic and what impact you saw from that. I know the pandemic has really put a lot of economic pressure on Iowans for a lot of different reasons over the past of the course 2 years, but I'm curious what challenges you've seen homeowners and renters really kind of face as a result of this. Has affordable housing really been exacerbated because of this, as it's become a more prevalent topic?
Well, there was a great need for housing in our area even before the pandemic. You can kind of look at some of the housing studies and see the housing that's going to be needed in the future and the housing that's available and see that those don't match up. The pandemic only made that worse. I think there were a couple of different things going on at the same time during the pandemic that kind of have led to an even greater need for affordable housing. One of those issues is that people stayed put. People that were older that maybe would have sold their homes and downsized decided just to hunker down during the pandemic, which makes a lot of sense. But those homes were then not available for people to buy. And on the other end of the spectrum, you had people who were renting, who were maybe without the pandemic, ready to move on to buying their first home, who also kind of hunkered down. There was a lot of uncertainty with jobs and just what was going to happen. And so those people stayed in their apartments. Well, there's a big trickle down effect. Meanwhile, I should add, homes were not being built. You've got all those different factors. And what that means is there weren't as many homes available on the market. We've all heard of the shortage of houses available for sale in the area. And that leads to the prices increasing for those homes that are available. If people can't afford to move, for example, from an apartment to a house, they may stay in their apartment, leading to an even greater shortage of rental units available, making the rents increase. So you get all these different factors together, and you add to that the fact that pandemic relief is starting to taper off, including things like, SNAP benefits and other benefits that don't necessarily relate to housing, but leave less money available to pay the rent. It just makes a difficult situation even harder.
So I'm curious what your thoughts are on what solutions cities should be looking for, these boards should be looking for. I don't know if you see a solution, but it sounds like that this might be a multi-pronged approach that is needed for this type of issue.
Right. Certainly we need more affordable units. And so there's the building side of things, different incentives that can be given to increase the number of affordable units in any development. There are also just benefits that could be given to first-time home buyers, down payment assistance and other programs that can help them, as well as just rental assistance to different tenants who need it.
Absolutely. Like you said, certainly an issue that will not be going away anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Maybe diverting the conversation a little bit, but it's my understanding you are big on tiny homes. Curious what the attraction is to tiny homes as you.
Yeah, my goal is to put people in homes, and tiny homes are one option to put people into a home of their own. Having done a lot of research on tiny homes, I think it's one option, not maybe the best option. What I found is in Cedar Rapids, the type of tiny home that would be allowed would be a permanent tiny home. So it would have to be on a foundation. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them being that gives the city the opportunity to inspect the tiny home and make sure that it's safe. But given the fact that it does need a foundation, there are a lot of infrastructure costs that go along with that. They would need water lines, electric, all those kind of services, which would mean you'd have to have a pretty big neighborhood for it to work economically for a developer. So I'm not sure that it would be the best solution here in Cedar Rapids, having looked into it quite a bit. I do think that they are still a really interesting possibility and an alternative for affordable housing. One benefit to it, apartment living involves being right up close to your neighbors, and a tiny home would give a little bit more privacy for homeowners. But I think economically, at least in Cedar Rapids for now, apartments or other options probably pan out a little bit better than tiny homes.
Okay, makes sense, definitely. Okay, well, that's all the questions I have for you today, Marty. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
For access to all of the Gazette Spotlight Business Series, visit thegazette.com/spotlight.